Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and man, look at that time. And I just put out the video for the William Jackson is possibly going to get released if we don't end up trading him before the trade deadline at 4 p.m. I started recording at 11. I finished recording and editing it and getting it out to y'all by like 1. All I do is get up and go do a couple of things in the yard real quick, and next thing I know, William Jackson has been traded to the Steelers. So I had to hurry up and run back in and record this, man. So hey man, we gotta talk about it. I mean, of course I'm gonna talk about a couple of the same things I talked about in the previous video, but we're gonna really dive into potential replacements for the for William Jackson as far as the cornerback market in this upcoming 2023 draft. So we're gonna definitely take a deeper dive into those guys in this video than I did the previous one, where I kind of just named them and we kept it pushing. I kind of talked about Joey Porter and Kelee Ringo a little bit, but we're really gonna dive into this cornerback class for this upcoming draft in this video for sure. Of course, we got to talk about William Jackson and the whole trade. Of course, that's going to be the meat of the video. We got to talk about what he got traded for. Those exact details I'm not sure of yet. Hopefully by the time before I'm done editing this video and recording this video and all of that, we finally get the trade details. Because right now, all of the sports reporters, Ian Rappaport, all of them are all completely on this Bradley Chubb, the Dolphins situation. So they're coming out with all of the details for that. This William Jackson trade is taking in a ridiculous backseat, like almost off the bus level backseat right now. So we don't know the trade terms yet. We're hearing that it's a trade swap, and again, hopefully before I'm done recording this video and all of that, or even if I gotta add it in later before I put this video out there, I'm gonna update y'all on what he was traded for. We gotta get that done. But again, as of right now, we think it's somewhat of like a late round trade swap. So maybe we traded like one of our 7ths to maybe one of their 5ths or so. I don't know. Maybe, hopefully something like that, or maybe it's a 7th for a 7th. I really have no idea. But either way, I'm just happy to get the money off the books. If we released them, we were gonna eat up ridiculous dead cap, and we're gonna take a look at that as well. We definitely got to talk about that. We got to talk about how much money we end up saving trading them rather than releasing them, which is the thing I care about the most. Of course, I would like a nice draft pick for them, but the most important thing is saving the money. We're gonna talk about that. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every Sunday for the live play-by-play analysis of every Commanders regular season game, and I'm speaking it into existence postseason game as well. I will be live streaming this upcoming game against the Vikings. We're supposed to be wearing all black again, and if you're a fan going to the game, you're supposed to wear all black as well. So make sure all y'all support the Commanders in this upcoming game against the Vikings, and make sure y'all pull up to my live stream to laugh and learn while we watch the game, man. And without further ado, let's get it. And real quick before we move on, I don't know what's going on with this Lions and Vikings trade, because now we have to play TJ Hawkinson twice in 1 year for absolutely no reason. Do the Lions hate us more than they hate the Vikings? They're willing to give away such a good player to a Vikings team that only has like 1 loss right now? Are they just trying to give them a Super Bowl push type of thing? Like, what do the Lions hate us more than them, man? They traded them away right before we play the Vikings. Like, I know I'm not the only one that thought of that. But all right, moving on to this whole William Jackson situation and the reason y'all are here. Tom Pelissero tweeted out just a few minutes ago, the Steelers and the Commanders are expected to swap late round future picks in the trade for cornerback William Jackson III, a low risk addition for Pittsburgh, which is trying to shore up his defense, while Washington moves on from a guy who didn't fit. So the way he worded it, it kind of sounds like maybe we're trading a 7th this year for like maybe a Pittsburgh 6th next year. It's nothing too spectacular. Again, I'm gonna update y'all on the official trade terms soon. But either way, it's not going to be anything that we're really happy about. The most important part is how much money we're saving. Also, I mean, of course we got to talk about how he didn't fit. And again, I already talked about this earlier in my previous video. But I mean, just the fact that we brought in a pure man cover corner, and I guess they thought that when we traded for him, that would translate into good zone coverage, potentially some good match coverage, which we also like to run, but that's the most difficult coverage for corners to run mentally, and William Jackson just hasn't been able to get it down mentally. He showed flashes in training camp, but I don't know what happened when we got to the regular season. All of that just went out the window. He went back to first half of last season William Jackson, because the second half of last season William Jackson was shutting things down. We left him on an island man cover against the opposing team's best receivers. He would literally shut down a third of the field. I don't know why that didn't go into this season. I don't know why that didn't leak into this season, some of that greatness, but he was bad this season. I mean, he got benched in the Tennessee Titans game after allowing both of his catches to be caught for an average of 10 yards, and then he had a missed tackle on Derrick Henry. Can't blame the Derrick Henry one, even though it was just bad technique. I didn't expect him to make that open field tackle anyway, but it's the way that he missed it that it was probably the reason why they went ahead and just benched him. Like, it's just time to move on type of thing. He was ready to move on. There were rumors that he requested a trade, and he came out and said to the media that he didn't, but I'm pretty sure he actually did, and he wanted to be gone. I'm pretty sure he loved his brothers, all of the guys in the secondary, the guys on the defense, the entire team, coaching staff, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't working out. And like I've been saying, I mean, I feel like we've been placing too much blame on him. It is kind of ironic that as soon as we bench him, we go on a win streak, but a lot of things changed. Taylor Heineke's the quarterback now, even though Carson Wentz was the quarterback for the first win of our 3-game win streak, but still, it just seems like as soon as we bench them, the defense has been near to elite. Now, we're not going to be elite until we start forcing turnovers, which we did against the Colts. That was probably our best game defensively all season. Again, because I've been preaching, you can be suffocating, you can be good at getting teams off the field on third downs, but if you're not creating turnovers, you're not going to be an elite defense, because you need to create turnovers to win games, especially when our offense is still as bad as it is, even with Taylor Heineke at quarterback. Even though there's improvements in several different ways, overall our offense is still really bad. We had 7 points until like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter against the Colts. Our offense is still bad, but at the end of the day, our defense has stepped up big time, and it just seems like as soon as we bench William Jackson, our defense ascended. But again, I feel like William Jackson has gotten a lot more blame than he deserves, because I feel like when he was beat, at least he was step for step with the guy. He just did dumb stuff like pulling at their jerseys and stuff, moving their hips, and just like a random pass interference at the last second for no reason when you're right there with good coverage. Never understood that. Of course, he was terrible in zone, he was terrible in match coverage, but when we asked him to do what he does best, he was pretty good at man coverage 95% of the play, and then the last 5% just commit a random penalty for no reason. Once he fixed that, I was sure that he would bounce back and basically turn into what he was the second half of last season, but I guess Jack Del Rio is ready to move on from doing any man coverage and just be primarily zoned with some match. And that's one thing that I've noticed since William Jackson's been gone. You know, mentally, they've been a better cornerback group. Physically and talent-wise, of course, they lack. William Jackson's our most talented corner. Well, no longer. He's no longer on the team now. But if we're talking about like just pure physical attributes and talent, William Jackson was the best corner on our roster. But mentally, with him out of the picture, we have better communication, better chemistry in the secondary. So that's why they've been performing better. But again, I feel like William Jackson gets too much blame, because when he gets beat deep or gets beat just period, he's at least right there. Kendall Fuller's like 3-5 yards, even more than that, away from the corner when he gets beat. So I felt like William Jackson and Kendall Fuller were kind of going back and forth with who wanted to be the worst corner on the team. But at the end of the day, Kendall Fuller, now that we're running more zone, which is just a better fit for Jack Del Rio's scheme, which is what he's done a lot of the time for his previous trips around the NFL as a defensive coordinator or head coach. It just fits better. But I just think it's crazy. We signed William Jackson, press man corner, drafted Benjamin St-Juste, press man corner, and then, you know, we tried to run man. For some reason, it didn't work for various reasons, one or another. First of all, Kendall Fuller in man coverage is awful, just almost just as bad as William Jackson in zone coverage. So that just didn't work. You have your cornerback 2 as a zone coverage guy, your cornerback 1 is a man coverage guy, and your slot guy prefers to play man, but he's actually adjusting to zone coverage. He can kind of do a little bit of both, and it just didn't work out. So now with William Jackson gone, we're going to run a lot more zone. We're going to run a lot more match coverage. We'll be in man coverage occasionally, because again, Benjamin St-Juste is a press man corner. I mean, when you're 6'3", you prefer to press, but he's been adjusting very well to not only being a man cover corner. William Jackson, on the other hand, has not adapted well to running anything outside of man coverage. And right now with Kendall Fuller, Benjamin St-Juste, and Rashad Wildgoose, we have some nice building blocks for a cornerback group. But I also feel like those guys, even though they have played well overall the past few weeks, they've also had the benefit of going against offenses that haven't taken opportunities and taken advantage of the mistakes they've made. There there's been holes in our secondary. Benjamin St-Juste, Rashad Wildgoose, and Kendall Fuller have gotten beaten at times, but Sam Ehlinger couldn't take advantage of it. Aaron Rodgers with his bad finger and his receivers dropping open catches for first downs couldn't take advantage of it. Justin Fields couldn't take advantage of it. And so it's just like, I'm worried about this upcoming Vikings game and then the Eagles game after that, because I feel like they're going to take advantage of the holes that we've had in our secondary. It doesn't really seem like it, but because, you know, we've been winning games and teams haven't been able to throw the ball very well against us the past 3 weeks. But I'm telling you, if you go look at the All-22, there were plays where guys were open. Sam Ehlinger just either didn't see him or threw a bad ball. Same thing with Justin Fields. And again, Aaron Rodgers would throw it to the receiver and they drop it. And so I'm a little worried about that moving forward. So which takes me to the point that we're definitely going to have to draft a guy, but we'll get there later. But this has been a really active trade deadline for the NFL. This past offseason, this 2022 offseason was the most active NFL offseason I've ever seen. And this is probably the most active trade deadline I've ever seen from the NFL as well. I mean, headlining, you have Christian McCaffrey, Bradley Chubb, my boy Roquan Smith. I'm so happy he went to a good team, a good defense. I hope he wins the Super Bowl with those guys, man. I love that Ravens defense. You have the Atlanta alien in Kyle Hamilton. I mean, built in the lab. You got my Georgia Bulldog, Roquan Smith. Y'all know I've been screaming for us to get Marcus Williams, even though he's on IR right now, for years now. I wanted him so bad. And then Marcus Peters is one of my favorite NFL personalities ever. So I'm in love with that Ravens defense. And my boy Roquan Smith going there, carrying the Georgia Bulldogs. Like I said, even just not even beyond the wins that he gave my Bulldogs, just like the recruiting classes we had because of what he contributed to this defense and this team. I mean, the championship we just won, I give him partial credit for sure, because the recruiting classes that we had after Roquan Smith showed what the Georgia program could do for linebackers, all of the linebackers, we don't get Nakobe Dean without Roquan Smith. We don't get Quay Walker without Roquan Smith. I highly doubt it. We don't get even offensive players without Roquan Smith coming through our program. So I'll forever be eternally grateful to Roquan Smith. Y'all know I love my Georgia guys, but Roquan Smith is in a special place. TJ Hawkinson, again, I already spoke on that. I just feel like the Lions hate us more than they hate the Vikings, which is just backwards. Like, what did we do to y'all? Chase Claypool to the Bears, Robert Quinn, Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs, James Robinson, William Jackson for us, and Robbie Anderson. And those are just the headliners. You also have Jay Hankins to Dallas. You have D. Jones to the Cleveland Browns. And of course, Chase Edmonds was in that Bradley Chubb trade, so he goes to Denver with all of the injuries they have in the running back group and Melvin Gordon getting benched. So it's just, man, this is so active and it's so fun. But going back to William Jackson, the most important part of this trade for us is how much money we save. Again, I'll update y'all on whatever the pick compensation is, but that's not going to be anything very notable. I mean, it's going to be nice to have whatever we gain from that, but at the end of the day, our biggest win from this trade is the money we save. And first of all, I just want to go ahead and get it out the way. I think William Jackson is going to end up going to Pittsburgh and probably balling out with the defense they run. If he's allowed to play more man coverage, I'm telling y'all, he's been receiving a lot more hate than he deserves. He hasn't been good, but he hasn't been anywhere near as bad as people are acting like. At least for people that, if you watch all 22, you put him in a man coverage system, especially when TJ Watt is back healthy, rushing the passer. I'm telling y'all, William Jackson, man, I'm telling y'all, y'all sleep on him. I know we're frustrated emotionally with him because he's been playing bad for us, but you got to be objective and logical. He's not as bad as what people act like. But either way, with this situation now, the thing I'm most excited about, and the reason I'm really happy, is the fact that we end up saving so much money from this situation. He's going to have $3 million in dead cap for us in 2023, 2024, and 2025, but that's not bad. That's all coming from his prorated bonus. So now we save almost $13 million worth of cap hit next year. So like I explained in the previous video, if we would have cut him, if we would have released him instead of trading him, oh wow, the 49ers just traded Jeff Wilson to Miami, I guess to replace Chase Edmonds, who they sent to Denver. That's just crazy. I know I've been going on crazy tangents, but the NFL is wild right now. But again, if we would have released him instead of trading him, he was going to be a $17.25 million dead cap this year, and that doesn't really matter. I mean, we're not making any real moves this year anyway. I'm pretty sure this is it. This is the most exciting thing the Commanders are going to do for the rest of the season, personnel-wise. I'm pretty sure. But the most important thing was next year, if we would have cut him this year before the trade deadline instead of trading him, he would have still been eating us up for $9 million worth of cap space, not on the team. That's ridiculous. That is terrible. That's so much money that we get to save towards signing Deron Payne long term. I know Cameron Curl's coming up soon. Cole Holcomb's coming up soon. Montez Sweat. You know what I'm saying? And any other free agents we may want to get from other teams that we may want to be able to pay and things like that. Oh, wow. Calvin Ridley to the Jaguars. What is going on? It doesn't stop. Wow, that's a great weapon to get. Calvin Ridley, when he's not betting on games, is a great receiver for them. This almost just feels like a live stream, how many tangents I'm going on, man. I'm sorry, y'all, but either way, man, that's so much money we get to save to pay other guys on our team because we have a lot of contracts coming up. Now, granted, we're going to save an additional almost $30 million next season from cutting Carson Wentz from the, whatever our calculated cap space is for next year right now, which right now is less than $5 million going into next season. As of right now, today, based on everything that's going on, before the William Jackson trade, we only had $5 million in cap space for the next offseason, this 2023 upcoming season. But releasing Carson Wentz will give us $26 million back. Now for William Jackson, instead of him hitting us for $15 million, he's only going to hit us for $3 million. So that gives us $12 million back for that. So now we actually have a little bit of wiggle room to get some things done. Again, to pay a lot of our guys long term, which should be the priority. And then if we have money left after that, maybe we can go bring in some talent if we feel like we're ready to go out there and make a real run next year. I mean, a lot's going to happen between then and now, and we'll see if we feel like we're Super Bowl contenders enough to be aggressive in free agency. But at least with this William Jackson move, and again, I'm assuming Carson Wentz is gone after this season, and again, he counts as no dick cap. We release him, we get literally all of the cap space back. If we want to be aggressive in free agency, we can. We have that option, but again, the priority is clearly to repay guys long term, most notably Deron Payne, whose contract literally ends after this season. He is officially an unrestricted free agent, can sign wherever he wants to go. Again, the biggest win from this William Jackson trade is how much money we save, especially next offseason. And basically, I mean, the Commanders just got to a point where they admitted this whole Jackson thing was a mistake, and it's not even necessarily his fault. He's a man cover corner. We brought him in here to do pretty much everything but man cover most of the time. And so they just pretty much cut their losses where it is. You get to save some cap space. You get a decent little trade swap, that it's not too bad. So instead of waiting on him to potentially get better and figure it out, I guess he hasn't shown enough signs of improving quick enough, so they were like, man, it's just time to go ahead and cut ties here, man, and let him go to a Pittsburgh team where he could potentially be put into a system that could really work out for him. I mean, a lot of people really expected him to go to the Steelers a couple of weeks ago when the whole William Jackson has requested a trade from the Commanders thing started, and after he got benched by the Tennessee Titans and stuff like that, the Steelers were already one of the leading candidates just out of logic. Like, no source is just like, where should William Jackson go? The Steelers make the most sense, and now it's happened, so it makes a lot of sense. And then plus he'll be able to go against his former team, the Bengals, twice a year, and with as much trash as my dog Adam Pac-Man Jones has been talking every time that William Jackson has had a bad game since he left the Bengals, I think that's perfect. So when William Jackson's on the Steelers and they play the Bengals twice a year, I know Adam Pac-Man Jones is going to be glued to the screen and ready to talk crazy if William Jackson doesn't perform, and then William Jackson will have his opportunity to rebuttal if he does go out there and ball out, which again I think is quite possible. And then the last thing we're going to talk about before we get up out of here are these 2023 draft corners, man. And I'm really excited about this class because you already know my Georgia Bulldog Kelee Ringo, one of the highest ceiling cornerback prospects we've seen in years. 6'2", 210 pounds, and supposedly runs a 4.35 40-yard dash. You literally can't beat that. If you had to build a corner in the lab, he's literally that. To put it in perspective, he's 1 inch taller than Jalen Ramsey, a couple of pounds heavier than Jalen Ramsey, and also ran a faster 40 time. Jalen Ramsey ran a 4.41 40-yard dash coming out of the draft. Kelee Ringo supposedly runs a 4.35. So he's bigger, taller, and faster than Jalen Ramsey. Literally, if you were to build a cornerback in a lab, is Kelee Ringo. But now for the negatives. And as a diehard Georgia Bulldog fan, like I already said in the previous video, it's going to be really hard for you to find a Georgia Bulldog fan, a bigger fan of the team than me, man. I'm one of them guys. I watch every game, even multiple times a lot of the times. I've already watched this Florida game like 4 times, but that's specifically because as Georgia Bulldog fans, we hate Florida more than any other team possible. I mean, Alabama's a fun rivalry because we've been the best two teams in the division for the past few years, but at the end of the day, we hate Florida more than anybody else. So I've already rewatched that game like 5 times, but I've watched every other Georgia game this season, even the ones where we've won like 50-0 at least twice. Because even when the backups come in, those are our future starters. So I got to see what they look like. You know what I'm saying? Those true freshmen, those redshirt freshmen, those backups, the younger guys. So I watched these games in full multiple times. But even as a diehard Georgia Bulldog fan, and I want Kelee Ringo to be the best cornerback ever. But right now, mentally, he has a lot of problems, man. He's very inconsistent. I don't know if it's like a motivation thing. I'm not exactly sure, but he'll lock up a #1 receiver on a title contending college program, and then the next week go against an unranked, not even Division I school, and he'll be getting cooked by their receiver. I don't know like what happens when you look at the film. It just seems like it's a lot of mental things. But I love him in man coverage. I love him in zone. I feel like he's so versatile. He can cover tight ends. He can cover bigger slot receivers, and he's fast enough to cover the DeAndre Swifts, even like the J.D. McKissicks, the speedy running backs, the speedy slot receivers like a Devonta Smith. Literally, Kelee Ringo is built to cover anybody you need him to cover. Whatever weakness you have in your defense, Kelee Ringo can plug that in and cover anybody. And then again, he's big. He's 210. He's solid against the run as well. He really has no weakness. If you had to give him a weakness, it's literally consistency. Literally, if you ask him to do anything you want a corner to do, he can do it all at a very high level. But how often is he going to do it at that high level? And again, I don't think I don't know if it's just a matter of concentration and motivation. He also has this weird thing. I already talked about this in the previous video as well, where he jumps too early. Like, he'll have perfect coverage, like step for step with the receiver down the field. He does this thing where he jumps like a second too early, and now he's on the way back down. The football's sailing like barely over his fingertips, and now the wide receiver's technically wide open because Kelee Ringo has taken himself out of the play. He's done that like 3 times already this season alone, which is like a really weird thing that's been bugging me while watching them. But again, if you had to build a corner in a lab, if you had to build the perfect cornerback, Kelee Ringo is your guy. Easily the highest ceiling. But if you want to go safe, if you want to go the guy that you can bring in and you know at the very least he can play zone coverage at an elite, really good level at the very least, that's Joey Porter from Penn State, man. And I think he can man cover as well. I think he's pretty versatile. I think he can defend slot corners very well. In man coverage, whatever you need him to do, he's very fluid. Change of direction is crazy. I just worry about him in run defense. I think Kelee Ringo is definitely a better run defender. But if we're talking about as far as safe, like a prospect with a higher floor, probably the highest floor in this draft class, I think is Joey Porter. Again, I think Kelee Ringo has the highest ceiling, but Joey Porter is easily the safer prospect because, again, Kelee Ringo just has to work on being consistent. Once he does that, he has the best corner in NFL potential, but who knows if he'll ever reach that. The way Kelee Ringo plays in college right now, just imagine him shutting down Justin Jefferson on an island, no safety help all game, one game, and then the following week getting beat by like the 3rd option on the Bears or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's literally that equivalent in college right now. It's the craziest thing I've seen. Go please look at Kelee Ringo tape, man. Some plays he looks like Jalen Ramsey. Some plays he looks like, why do we even have him out there? It's crazy. And then you have Malachi Moore from Alabama. A lot of people consider him at the very least a top 5 cornerback prospect in this draft. I feel like his lack of weight causes him to struggle in man coverage at times, but he has all of the speed you need. His hips are fluid, but like, I don't know, it's something about his feet, like the way he backpedals, I haven't liked so far. Now, granted, I haven't done like extensive film watches and film sessions on these guys yet, but from what I've seen from a little bit of watching Malachi Moore, I think he's a good corner. I think he can end up being a really good corner at the NFL level, but he has some random mistakes he needs to work on. Of course, you also have Utah cornerback Clark Phillips. You have South Carolina cornerback Cam Smith. You have, LSU transfer Eli Ricks that went from LSU to Alabama. He was supposed to be one of them like really good LSU corners. Y'all know how LSU has that reputation of producing some straight dogs at the NFL level. Another one of those guys that as a true freshman out here locking up seniors and stuff. But I don't know, since he's gone to Alabama and then he got hurt, I believe, LSU last year, he hasn't been the same. He's still good, but he hasn't reached that ceiling that we thought he reached so far this season. Then you also have Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M, along with his running partner, Jalen Jones from Texas A&M. Just depends on which one you like more. They're both big guys. I mean, Jalen Jones is 6'2", Antonio Johnson 6'3". We have a lot of big corners in this draft class. Clark Phillips is 5'10". Everybody else that I've mentioned is at least 6 foot. Again, Joey Porter 6'2", Keelan Ringo 6'2". Joey Porter's kind of 6'3", I don't know. Antonio Johnson 6'3", Eli Ricks 6'2", Jalen Jones 6'2". It's a lot of big corners at the top of this class, man. Clark Phillips is the shortest out of the top group of guys by far at 5'10". You also have Syracuse Garrett Williams, who I think is very talented. It's just kind of hard to judge him because he plays for Syracuse. So, you know, his level of competition isn't the same as a lot of these other guys, especially these guys in the SEC. But I think Garrett Williams is a little underrated. So, yeah, man, I mean, I'm gonna start working on draft stuff. I mean, if y'all want me to, let me know in the comment section. If y'all want me to start doing mock drafts, I can do a whole video breaking down the Commanders' biggest weaknesses and the top prospects for each of those weaknesses as of right now. But of course, there's so much football to still be played in college, and you know, there's so much we still gotta break down. There's so much film I still gotta watch. So this isn't absolute right now, but so far from what I've seen, this is who I would consider the top cornerbacks as of right now. And again, let me know if y'all want me to go ahead and start getting this draft content out there, because y'all know I love the draft. That's my favorite part of football, so I've been itching to do it, but I just don't want people to think I'm out here saying that we're tanking and start doing draft stuff as if we're trying to lose on purpose. Now that we're on a winning streak, maybe if I do some draft content, people won't freak out. But let me know, man, how y'all feel about the draft content. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about this video. Let me know how you feel about this whole William Jackson situation. How do you feel about this trade composition? How much money we saved? Do you feel like William Jackson was as bad as a lot of people hype him up to be? And all of that type of stuff, man. And how do you feel about a lot of these draft eligible corners coming out this upcoming class? And yeah, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of y'all. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And of course, man, I shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.